is Dukes and Bell. We need to head to Miami, MIA, and find out the latest with our Falcons. Yeah, exactly. And Scott Bair is down there. He is with our Falcons, guys. Last couple of days, they've been practicing with the Dolphins, AtlantaFalcons.com writer. Scott, I am getting the perception that we've had two really good days, okay? And I want to get your thoughts on this because, again, to hear Arthur Smith talk about Ridder and putting the ball in the right places, how he looked in 7-on-7, how the defenses looked. You tell us what happened.
Yeah, I thought that Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel had a great quote at the end of a Wednesday session where, like, he basically said, if the goal is to look really average, then I guess the Dolphins are really pumped. And the reason why I say that is because I think the Falcons made Miami look average at times. And they have a lot of speed. They have some talent on defense, but ultimately not on every rep, not in every period. But I thought that the Falcons were able to dictate terms a lot of times on defense. They got their hands on the ball quite a bit. And you saw, and Arthur Smith said this, and I agree with him, you saw better decision-making, enhanced decision-making and technique from quarterback Desmond Ridder. That's a virtual quote from Arthur Smith. I tend to agree with it, meaning the ball's going to the right spot that the coach wants him to go with it in that particular scenario. I think that and the ability to get your hands on the football in pass defense are two huge standouts, and it wasn't just Jesse Bates and AJ. It was guys across the board, guys who are going to fill in for Jeff Okudah, getting your hands on the ball. That's really key, and I thought that was really encouraging after two good days of work down here in Miami.
Let's not forget, I was down there for the 21 game. That was the Kyle Pitts rookie season. Him and Matt Ryan connected for 163 yards, 7 of 8. Remember, Carl, the one-handed catch in front of the Dolphins bench? Beautiful. Everything but a touchdown, Scott. So, I mean, we know we got athletes. Now we're just going to, put them in a system that, let's again, put Desmond Ridder in a system that lets him get the ball to those playmakers.
Yeah, and I think in talking to Bijan Robinson today after practice, that, look, he's learning a lot at once. And I think that he's really starting to compartmentalize and understanding his role. Look, he's played all these positions at Texas. He's run every route on the tree. That's not new to him. But what they're asking him to do in terms of reading coverage and deciding where to go based upon the reads that he's making, being in the right spot at the right time, we're starting to see those little things come together. And what he was saying is when you master that stuff, then it allows you to execute your, as he puts it, his God-given ability. And let's be honest, he has a lot of it. And we've seen flash plays. I think the most important thing that I took from what Bijan was able to do here was, look, I mean, he can stop on a dime. He can do so much fun stuff. But I think that he was just consistently open or consistently in the right hole because he's been running with the second unit a lot. I saw a lot of first unit stuff, which is good because he needs to know exactly when Chris Lindstrom and Caleb are going to be, fitting their run block together. How fast can they pull to the outside? How does his wide zone look when it's the starting five? And he's starting to get that timing down. And those are week one's not tomorrow, but those are the types of incremental steps that you like to see from a player expected to make an instant impact. And I think that, again, goes back to your original point. It speaks to what Arthur Smith is doing with his scheme, positionless football, all that stuff, finding ways to create mismatches. We saw that time and time again versus the Dolphins.
Scott, let's talk about the defense because I'm also hearing defensive front look really good.
Yeah, I really thought that some of their younger guys stood out. I think we talked some about Zach Harrison and Arnold Ebiketie. There was a play in a 2-minute drill where Jalen Hawkins made a pick. He didn't make that pick if Grady Jarrett isn't screaming through the middle. And I think that, look, nobody's taken Tua to the ground, and there's a lot of maybe would-be sacks or pressures that aren't really qualified as such. And you may have seen a Twitter video of Miami winning at the very end. There's no way that throw ever would have gotten off in real life. But I think the most encouraging thing is that you're starting to see the guys from the second wave show up. I was talking to Calais Campbell afterward, and he's been kind of slow to ramp up. He didn't do much in terms of team drills, but I mentioned Zach And I mentioned Arnold Ebiketie, and he said something that was, for a guy who's been around for 16 years, for a guy who knows this team, he says that Arnold has maybe the most pure pass rushing talent on the roster. No, there's a lot of dudes on the roster who are pretty good, who are better than Arnold right now. But I think that to have a guy like Calais Campbell say something like that about a second-year pro really speaks to the natural ability that we're starting to see in these joint practices. And if they can just refine that talent and execute it when it really matters, that's when it gets encouraging.
It is Scott Bair, guys, from Falcons.com. He got to witness the Falcon beatdown of the Dolphins today down in South Florida in this dual practice going down. And, Scott, how'd the secondary look, not having a couple of guys out there? Obviously had a couple of injuries. Clark Phillips is going to be okay after getting kicked in the leg. We talked about missing Okuda. How'd the other guys look, including A.J. Terrell today?
Yeah, they get the hands on the ball a lot, like a lot. Whether it's the first, second, or third unit, there was a period in 2-minute drills where Troy Anderson, he got a pass breakup by brute force. It was a shoulder pad that dislodged something. But then you see Jalen Hawkins make a play, and then you see somebody else in the secondary shut them out and make them go 3 and out. And they dislodged the ball every time. An accurate, catchable pass fell incomplete because a defender did something with it. And I think that is something that Jerry Gray is really preaching and Jesse Bates is really preaching, is to what their goal is, according to Jesse Bates right now, is to let it loose and maybe make some mistakes, and then you work it out in the meeting rooms. So they're playing really aggressive right now, and sometimes you get beat. Like Darren Hall kind of gave up the goal line in a red zone drill. He probably didn't want to do that. Jerry Gray kind of coached that out of him. But generally speaking, we're seeing a lot of aggressive play from that secondary. Now, sometimes, look, Tyreek Hill is going to do a Tyreek Hill thing. That's going to happen, especially when you're playing aggressive. But ultimately, I saw coordinated defense, because even when Tyreek got open during a team drill and kind of beat his man, Micah Abernathy was there over the top. That's what you want. Like all this one-on-one drill stuff that's fun on social media, right? Like that's not real football. Like it's terrible coaching if a safety isn't going to help on that guy. But ultimately, when you see those guys in the back kind of work together, I think that's the impressive thing. AJ's AJ, right? That he's starting to become really steady. And talking to him on Tuesday, that's what he's looking to do. Have his body right. He's tired of being hurt. Right. He made that very clear. He's doing lots of prehab over rehab to make sure he's available for his team for 17 games. I think he understands his value to this team, the importance of him being on the field, and he's taken that seriously. And when he's on the field, look, he's just a steady cover guy at a very high level. That's what I saw really over the last 2 days. That's what I've seen over the last 2.5 weeks.
He is Scott Bair, guys, AtlantaFalcons.com writer down there in Miami. Joint practices the last couple of days. You heard Scott. We made him look average, and that's what you want to hear. It could be the opposite, and we could be talking about our Falcons looking average. That hasn't been the case. We'll see what happens with the preseason game on Friday. Scott, I want to ask you, what do you get a sense of with how much these starters will play, how much Ridder will play? Is Drake going to play? I mean, what do you think is going to happen there on Friday?
Yeah, Arthur played coy in that he said that his top-level guys are going to play in the preseason. It's to be determined if they play on Friday. If I were to kind of try to read between the lines after talking to John, having Desmond talk, of course, they want to go play football. I don't know if Friday's that day. I do think that they're going to find some time for that. They still have to figure out, are they going to keep Logan Woodside as a number 3 quarterback? Are they going to how are they going to fill out some of these bubble roles? Because they practiced in pads Tuesday and Wednesday, and it was a shorter practice on Wednesday, but they were getting after it. Today, it was a spirited exchange. So, and if you're going to see Dez, you have to see the entire starting offensive line. Those two things go together. That's why I think that they will make an appearance. Maybe week 2. Might be the spot for that, but we'll have to wait and see.
That's frustrating for us, but I mean, it just with a 3-game preseason, almost all of the work that we're not seeing is what you're seeing down to like a few years ago. You're seeing it down there in these scrimmage type scenarios. Yeah, and I think Heineke's looked okay. I mean, our impressions, at least from practice and the red zone stuff, is Taylor Heineke looks fine.
Yeah, I think he does, and he's one of those guys where, I mean, he's made a lot of starts, and he's a guy that thinks he can, absolutely make every throw perfectly, and a lot of times it works well, and he has a highlight reel full of moments like that. Some you obviously want to pull back, but I do think that when you look at what Taylor Heineke is able to do in terms of a guy who could be a number 2 for you, this isn't a real QB competition right now. But to have a guy like that as a number 2, I feel like that is encouraging. We could see a lot of Heineke and Woodside. We could see a smattering of some of these younger guys play a bigger roles. I think that's what's encouraging to me, right? Like we've seen Zach Harrison flash. We've seen some of these running backs, Carlos Washington types, maybe even Robinson. Who knows? Right, but we've seen guys like that, not in a live situation. I want to see tackles to the ground. I want to see can these guys actually get home? And I think those are the types of things that ultimately I am looking for. But I do understand exactly what you're saying, exactly what the fans are saying is like, hey, look, we can't be at every single practice. Show us on TV what you've been working on. Right. And I think ultimately they will. Whether they take another week to kind of refine some things and then get after it against, I believe the Bengals are in week 2. That's, a decided possibility.
Scott, great work, man. We appreciate you jumping on with us down there from the MIA. Scott Bair, AtlantaFalcons.com writer. Thanks so much. We will talk soon, Scott.
You know it. Thanks, boys.
Yeah, man. Good stuff from him. Falcon fans, get excited. This is good news. It just is. And I don't know, Mike, it sounds like Coach is going to probably not play a bunch of guys, but at the end of the day, that's why you do these joint practices. Right. Get the work in, and then if you don't want to play some guy, you don't play him on Friday.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to see Ridder.
I'm with you. I'm with you.